Here's a few mistakes that a beginning wrestling coach will make early in their wrestling career. And some continue this along the path of their career, and it's always causing them issues. Number one is they don't underteach, over drill. They have a list of, hundreds of things, and they go, we got to know all this. Well, true. You do need to know all that if you want to get a $100,000 wrestling scholarship to, Penn State or Oklahoma State or somewhere, right? But to win a youth wrestling title or even a high school national title, you're really doing them a disservice. Now, what you can do is what we like to do. We say underteach, over drill. We just look at the best techniques in the sport of wrestling. Actually, our online wrestling academy that's launching here soon, it's January of 2019, it's launching here in about a week or so, is we narrowed it down. Well, the past 2 decades, we've been focused on the best 270 wrestling techniques in wrestling. But we have our beginners, we have our phase 1 kids, we have our phase 2 kids, and our phase 3 kids. So there's a 4-step process. Just like gymnastics, right? And karate, they teach things in a belt series. So you should do that too. You should say, man, I only have my kids twice a week for an hour and a half, and they only practice 12 weeks a year. Then they go play baseball and soccer. Now if they want to wrestle 5 days a week, year-round, for 4 years, sure, you can have your great big list. But you're not a bad coach because you can't teach them everything that they must know. But what should they know to win a state title in youth wrestling? And they're going to disappear. It's not their fault, right? They want to play their sports, and they should be allowed to. So, maybe in the off season, those kids who are more committed to off season wrestling, then you can go what we call phase 2, right? So then you might have your basic program. You drill the tar out of those kids, and then the off season you can build on that and say, hey guys, if you want to know more about wrestling, we're going to spend our time here. But you have to train in the off season. High school coaches, same way. You have 6 practices a week in the beginning. Then after the first few weeks, you have weekends, no practice on Sunday. You start having Friday night and Saturday tournaments. You only have 4 practices. A lot of times you have a dual meet. You only have 3 practices a week with your kids. So you're not much better than the Pee-wee coaches. Once you get into the competition side of things, you need to underteach, over drill too. Bruce Lee says, I'm not afraid of the man with 10,000 kicks who's done 10,000 kicks one time. I'm afraid of the man who's done one kick 10,000 times. So I think you're probably, if your drill plan is too big, the kids aren't mastering anything. Okay. So secondly, we try to force a style. We're going to wrestle this way, or we're going to wrestle that way. You shouldn't force a style, right? Well, maybe as far as a basic approach would be, we like to say wrestle smart, right? And let the kids' style develop. Their style of wrestling is going to develop based upon their types of athleticism and their personalities and their body type. A tall, skinny, really fast athlete's going to wrestle differently than a short, fire plug, powerful kid. Just let them work that out on its own. So don't force a style of wrestling, because you're really doing them a disservice. A newer coach, a lot of times has a hard time controlling the room. We want to be classroom managers and teachers. That's one of our goals at Purler Wrestling, is to be the best teachers and classroom managers. We do private team camps where we send our camp all over the nation, and people say, what coach are you sending? I'm like, well, we're not really sending a coach, we're sending a trainer. Coaches do what? They handle the budget, they deal with the athletic director, they handle with all the parents, the weight loss certifications, they order the buses, they're dealing with the cheerleaders, they're coaching mat side, they're doing the seating meetings. I mean, there's 1,000 other things. We're teaching our system, our phase 1 and 2 system. We're here, we have our system, and we're going to teach it. All right, so I'm sending trainers and instructors and classroom managers. Then that's the technique side of wrestling. But, as far as even a coach, you still need to make sure that if you do these other things well that I mentioned, the other 38 jobs you have, you still need to make sure that you're a master in the room at managing the classroom and teaching. A lady with a PhD who's a terrible 5th grade math teacher doesn't need to go back to math classes and learn more equations, no more than a wrestling coach needs to go to a wrestling clinic and learn more moves. Too often we go to wrestling clinics that a college puts on, and they're just showing more wrestling moves, right? And that might not be your problem, right? Or we like to say, we want to teach you how to manage a room, how to teach wrestling techniques, all right? Every wrestling technique that we show has a step. There's 4 to 8 steps to every technique we teach, and we can teach. I've taught 95 kids at one time. It's like robots, right? By myself. I don't recommend that, but you know, I had help on the way. They were tied up, but you know, within about 20 minutes, I had my help walking in the doors. But I can do it, right? And some of us struggle with having 7 coaches over 30 kids in this chaos. So make sure you do a good job of classroom management, and you know, develop a style of teaching and developing the pace and flow of the practice, because managing other human beings is a big part of coaching. And some coaches, especially the newer ones, have a hard time with room control. Another thing that we do sometimes, this would be number 4, is poor communication with our parents. They don't need much. Just twice a week, do an email. That's it. Hey, this is what's coming up here, and even have your managers do it. These your managers that you have, put them to use, right? You shouldn't try to do everything. Maybe have an assistant coach. Maybe you take a practice off. The kids love it when the head coach isn't at practice. Take a practice off and say, hey, I'm going to go home to my home office and I'm going to organize this tournament thing or whatever. Or maybe there's a camp you're doing that summer you want to do some organization on. You're going to type up a nice email and do the Google Calendar or whatever. I don't know. But just communicating with your coaches, with your parents is key, and your teams. Like, you know, your team doesn't even know what your rules are for competing for a spot, your challenge matches. The parents should know these are the dates for challenge matches. You have to win 2 out of 3 matches, so on and so forth, right? No one should show up to practices and say, hey, districts is Saturday, tomorrow's Friday, you have to challenge for your spot and you got to lose 10 pounds tonight. I mean, we don't want to engage in that kind of stuff. So be super organized and communicate with your parents. You're going to find that, you know, some of you have parents crawling up your neck and you just want to kill them. It might be because if you just spent a little organizational time and sent a nice email, at least they get to know you as a person and as a nice dude, right? Someone who tries really hard, they're going to cut you a little bit of slack too when you screw up, because we're all going to at times, right? Another mistake, number 5, running. We have a no running guarantee at our camps. Not one, we're not running. We don't do punishment push-ups. My classroom management style, I don't need to punish kids and do push-ups. They're going to look amazing because I'm going to make them look amazing, and they're going to want to look amazing. We're not going to scream and yell and make them do push-ups and punishment laps. And certainly don't run 30 or 40 minutes of practice. That's time they should be drilling. You know, some reason maybe you are trying to under-teach, over-drill, but you can't. You have a good, organized, solid plan that's not too big, but hell, you're spending 4 hours a week running, and now you're stressed out because you're not getting your drills, right? So, you know, sure, in the end of season, I would do some sprints. I would hit the bleachers, you know, once a week at the last 2 months of season. But the other 10 months a year, I wouldn't run. I would only wrestle. And if you want to do conditioning at the end of practice, we like the wrestling circle. They do in colleges, right? Everybody's in a big circle, guy in the middle. Maybe the coach calls out stance, motion, shot, sprawl. You pound out 50 push-ups. Then you do plyometrics, jumps. You might do buddy squats, right? Whatever. So it's just kind of a wrestling, a super intense 12-minute, your feet moving the whole time. Because in wrestling, it's a sport that takes a lot of energy and conditioning. But let's be honest, I can collar tie you and underhook you and take a breather. I can get my legs in on top, or I can lock a cradle and take a breather. So that the conditioning circle is a great way to get conditioning at the end of practice, and it's really wrestling related drills that you're utilizing also. So I wouldn't run. I wouldn't spend 30 or 40 minutes of practice running, and I would pretty much avoid most running until the very end of season. But there's some mistakes I see newer wrestling coaches make, and hopefully this helps you guys. You can check us out at purlerwrestling.com. We've got tons of training programs there in case you have the interest. Summer camps, traveling camps. Every other weekend or 1 weekend a month we have competition camps. Our wrestling academy is the biggest wrestling academy in the nation. locations all over the Midwest. So you can check us out at purlerwrestling.com. Good luck.